Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Time with Byron. I am your host, Byron. Alongside me is former MLB and minor league manager, John McLaren. I hope I'm saying that right. Sorry if I butchered it a little bit. uh, Thank you
Just
again.
like the
I
car,
appreciate it.
just like the car, no relation.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah, you know the drill. I got to ask first off. I want to ask before we get into your career, your two former teams that you were obviously a manager of. I'm sure you sort of keep up to date with what's going on in the league. So I got to ask you, your two teams that you managed for the Mariners and the Nationals. Uh, how far away do you think those two teams can make it to the playoffs, and what do they need to go to that next level?
Well, starting with Seattle, they had one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball last year. Their offense kind of let them down a little bit, and they still got the same pitchers. And I think they're still looking for some pieces of the puzzle offensively. And Dan Wilson's my guy. I'm pulling for him. I
Mm,
thought he did an outstanding job taking over for Scott Service. And they have some good players. I mean, Julio Rodriguez is one of the best young talents in all of baseball, and
mm-hmm.
Crawford's a top-notch shortstop. He had an all offensive year, but I think if they can get a couple pieces offensively, the division has kind of come to them a little bit, and that should help them. The Washington Nationals, they had to kind of restructure things. I'm a big Mike Rizzo fan. I think he's one of the top general managers in all of baseball. He's a baseball guy. He's a very loyal man, and him and his staff have been doing it year in, year out. And they lost Bryce Harper. They lost
Yeah.
Soto. They've lost some of the best
Yeah.
players in baseball. And Mike always
And
brings them back.
Strasburg hasn't stayed healthy.
I feel bad for
And
him.
Strasburg hasn't been healthy.
I love Strasburg. I was there when he broke in. It was a magical night. Struck out 14. Pittsburgh Pirates at
Mm-hmm.
home. Had a playoff atmosphere, and I really hated to see him because he's a great competitor and he's a good
Yeah.
person. And you hate for somebody's career to end like that. But he's I think he's into the coaching ranks in the college level now, and he'll bring a lot to the table. He's a student of the game, and I'm a big fan of his. And Washington's building it back up again. They have a terrific scouting staff, and their development does a tremendous job. And they'll be back. They've made some nice strides last year. Dave Martinez is one of my former players. He's a great guy, and I pull him for Davey. And I think the future looks bright for both organizations.
For sure. So your time as the Seattle manager, I gotta ask you. You were there from 07 and 08 as the manager. What do you remember about your tenure there as the manager? And take us through that experience, because that's your first time actual as a manager itself. I see you were other as a coach for other teams, but that was your first managerial gig. So take us through that experience. What was that like for you before you went on to coach, like you said, the Nationals in 2011?
Well, I end up having rotator cuff surgery, and 2 days later, I'm manager of the team. So I was I was a little beat up when I took over the team. It was a shock to me. Mike Hargrove was the manager. We were playing well. We'd won 9 or 10 games in a row. It caught me completely off stride. I like Mike Hargrove. I think he's an excellent manager. I enjoyed working for him. Of course, I was with Lou Piniella 14 years, and he's my guy. But when I took over, we were very competitive. We went down to the end, having a chance to make the playoffs. And if they had today's rules, we'd have been the extra wild card team. With that said, we had high expectations for 2008. We made a big trade with Baltimore for Eric Bedard. We gave up Adam Jones and some really good prospects.
Yep, I remember that trade. Yep.
It didn't really work out well for Seattle, and nothing against Eric Bedard. It just Adam Jones developed into a top-notch player, terrific guy. And, we overachieved in 2007 and 2008. We underachieved and ultimately cost me my job. It's part of the game. I never got an opportunity except for interim with the Nationals. And, it is what it is. Like I said, I regrouped, ended up coaching in Philadelphia for a couple of years, and now my focus and energy goes to international baseball. I'm managing a team in Dubai. We're going there in February. Anyway, go back in October. We did it last November. We had some great players on our teams. It's a great concept. The ownership group, if you look it up, Barry Larkin, Adrian Beltre, Felix Hernandez, Mariano Rivera. We got tremendous Ryan Howard. We got tremendous ownership.
Yeah,
this thing has been it's going to grow and grow and grow. And we're a pioneer. We're trailblazers. We're starting baseball in the Middle East. And I tell you an interesting trivia is when we were having meetings, they threw out some facts. And our guy said, there's more baseball fans in India than there is in the United States. Well, you think about that, and you say, oh, come on. This is our national pastime. That couldn't be possible. And then if you back up and you think about it, as large the population is in India and with the internet, you could see how this can happen.
Unfortunately, I can believe that. You want to know why? Because a lot of people here, with the way the game's going, and I think you can agree with me on this. I know baseball slowly tried to bring it back with some managers tried it with stealing and all that, singles and all that, get on base, but it's been boring, and that bores the fans, especially the.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what bores me is strikeouts and nothing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what takes.
Now,
yeah.
I'm from the school. Billy Martin,
Same.
Lou Piniella, squeeze, hit and run, delay steal.
That's what I grew up on before the steroid era. That's what I grew up on.
First and third baseball. I mean, that's an exciting brand of baseball. And I just like to mention this. People look at me with my gray hair and know I've been around 26 years in the big leagues. They say, well, John, you're old school. Yes and no. I've always adapted to the game to move on. Like I said, Lou Piniella and I, we always did numbers, not to the extent they do today, but we always used numbers to put our lineups together and to look at how to pitch the other team. We always used numbers.
Yeah,
and I'd just like to say, whatever side of the game you're on, if you're new school analytics or you're old school and like it used to be played, I'm good with that. To me, I'm a little of both. And I just like to say, I just want people to love and respect and show respect to our game. That's all I want. I don't want anybody using our game. I want them to respect our game and show it the gratitude it deserves, because it's a great game. It's been everything for me. It's been my whole life. I mean, I was a 5-year-old kid thinking about the big leagues.
Yeah.
And when I ran into a wall and my ability wouldn't take me to the big leagues, I got to AAA. I rerouted my thoughts and went into scouting and managing the minor leagues,
Yeah.
going to Venezuela and Colombia managing. And I worked my way up to the big leagues. And like I said, I try to use that when I do clinics. And I always stress to all the fathers out there that, I get it. You're reliving your career through your son. I get it.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. I wasn't fortunate like that. I didn't have a father in the house, and I had a mother that was as support as you could be.
Yeah.
And I like that when you support your kid. You want him to go as far as he can in baseball, but don't put such pressure that he doesn't enjoy playing the game, because it's run many a kid away having too much pressure on him at a young age. And the
Yeah.
other thing I tell young coaches is, please, we're working on the player's resume, not yours. This is all about the kids. And
Yeah.
that's usually my message when I do clinics and academies, and I try to spread the word of baseball. And like I said, I'm involved in international baseball. Dennis Cook and I went to Poland and Switzerland last summer, and we were doing the Poland national team, and hope to help them out again. They have some good young talent, and like I said, my baseball adventures when I wasn't coaching, I did MLB academies in Europe. I did Italy 4 years. I did Netherlands 1 year. I did Germany 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that I still run into them that were part of our academies. Had one from Lithuania, never lasted, pitched in the big leagues, and had a couple from Romania and Germany and the Netherlands. And, baseball is a family.
Yeah.
Once you're in the family, it just keeps growing. And I enjoyed doing my international travels like that. And that's what I do now. That's how I'm going to give back, is trying to promote the game around the world.
And see, I'm with you in that boat. I've had this conversation with ex-players as well. Not so much current yet, because it's hard to get to them. Since I'm, like I told you before we got here, I'm a new podcaster, so it's kind of hard to get to current players. But from the old ones I have had on here, it's like you and me, 50-50. Like, yeah, it's part, like, yeah, 50-50, like the old game better, but can adapt to the new. It's 50-50. So I'm with you on that. I can, but the way sometimes it's going, though, like I said, I know some managers have slowly brought it back, but it's still there. It's so analytic driven, though, more towards that, don't you think? Right now, though, that it has to change.
Well, Byron, what I say to that is, I think all teams have the same numbers now. So if you want to be a difference maker, I think you got to go back and be a little bit of old school, how to run the bases,
Mm-hmm.
how to hit the cutoff man, and work on fundamentals more like we used to. And like I said, I really, analytics has got some great ideas. I think it's a great tool in putting your roster together and looking at free agent players. And you can look on the other side of the coin too. We had a little group of baseball guys yesterday. Ed Lynch, who was a former major league general manager, Chris Borges, big league player and
Yep.
scout,
Yep.
and Bob Nightingale, writer for USA Sports, and Mike Brown, who's a scout with the Tampa Bay Rays now. And, we talk about today's game, the game when we were coming up, the pros and the cons, and it's a great conversation. I'm from the school of debate. I like to debate things. If you're respectful, You don't throw anybody under the bus. You show respect. I think you can have a conversation and disagree, and something positive comes out of it. But we have a great conversation. We get together, and it started. We were supposed to meet for coffee. It started. We all sat down, and we hadn't been with each other in a while, and we talked 2 hours, and we didn't even mention getting a cup of coffee, and it was a wonderful conversation. Bob Nightingale is one of the top writers in the United States, and he's got such a pulse
He
on
sure
what's
is.
going on in baseball, and it was tremendous. I like to hear, his thoughts on things. We talked Hall of Fame. We talked about, would anybody even sign Pete Rose today off the numbers? Today, I don't think they would. He can't run.
No.
He can't throw. He doesn't have any power.
Yeah.
Right. Is Lodge Angle. I mean, it's just not a new school type of ball player.
Yeah.
But he's arguably the greatest hitter in the history of baseball, along with Barry Bonds. And, but I like to get together with guys like this, and I think when you reminisce a little bit, you bring up names that you haven't talked about in a while, which happened yesterday on several occasions. Bringing up names, I was talking about some of the guys that were in the academy in Europe, and was Barry Larkin and Bruce Hurst, and I mentioned Felix Mion, and the guy says, "Man, I haven't heard Felix's name in a long time," and so it was. It's a great conversation. I'm looking forward to doing it in a month when we do it again, and we'll probably have a lot to talk about. The Hall of Fame will be announced by then, and we'll discuss it. And we'll discuss who didn't get in, who did get in. We discussed yesterday about Lou Piniella missing the last 2 times by 1 vote, and I'm extremely disappointed. He's definitely a Hall of Fame manager. I mean, him and Jim Lehman, their careers mirror each other. You look at it, and they're the same thing. And I told these guys, I said, Jim didn't play in the big leagues where Lou did. He was a .292 lifetime hitter. Plus, I thought something that was big in Jim's resume is he won the first World Baseball Classic as manager, and that was huge. I mean,
it was.
If people haven't been to one of those games, they're missing something. I did 3 of them. I did the first USA one. I was third base coach, and we had a who's who all-star team, and we just weren't in shape. And then I did 2 others with China. We were in Japan both times, and I got to see Cuba both World Baseball Classics. Plus, I saw Japan and Korea, and I mean, it was just. I love international baseball. I just don't think baseball could be without it. I mean, I think 43% of the major league players are from Latin countries, and
they are.
Everybody has academies, and Dominican. Some of them in Venezuela, but not like before because of the government there. And this is a new frontier in Dubai, and I think we're going to set the groundwork and the foundation for it to build and nurture. And doing this thing in Poland, there's some good athletes. I like to coach coaches. That's one of the things I like to do is, you can coach the kid right there, but I like to coach the coaches so they teach some other young players and tell them, some techniques and drills and how to organize a workout, and try to help them with the development of pitching on have them on throwing programs, throwing long to build arm up, how to take care of arms and pitch counts, and just try to feed them information that they can use to make them better coaches.
That is awesome. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that, and I will sort of get into that too with the World Baseball Classic because I did see that on your profile as well, and you just flat flat out awesome talked about that too. But I'm going to bring that up too. But as the first manager I've had on here, I've got to ask you because honestly, I hate when sports shows say this about any coach or whatever fired. Okay, I hate when they say that. So take us through that process. Do they really, the owners say fire, or is it just a mutual agreement between you guys whenever quote unquote these shows say firing? Take us through that because I'm kind of curious how that is. I hate when shows say you guys are fired when I'm sure it's a mutual agreement.
Well, to just put things in perspective, when you take the job, you know there's going to be an end. You hope there's going to be a lot of years involved, whether you don't come to that point. But when you're hired, you're going to be fired at some point unless you leave on your own. And it's sometimes it's a mutual thing, but usually it's not. I will say, I think today in all of sports, not just baseball, I think. There's not much patience because of the fan base, because of the money involved. I think we want instant results, and sometimes you have to have a rebuild. There's
Mm-hmm.
other times where organizations or teams disguise it, and you're acting like you're ready to win, and you're really not. And I think that's the worst position to be in for me as a manager or a coach because you're trying to sway the fans and trying to fool them, and as a coach and manager that you're short, and they build the team up. Everybody's optimistic coming out of spring training. Everybody's think they can win the first day, but I mean
Yeah.
the cream comes to the top every time, and
Yeah.
it's usually the teams with the higher payroll, except a couple exceptions. Tampa Bay and Kansas City and Oakland also, they have proven that.
Time and time. Yeah.
Their theory of the use of the farm system. The Yankees actually have taken that theory now, although they can go out and make trades with their prospects. And that's one of the reasons you build your farm system up. When you're in a position to win, and you probably understand that window won't be there long, sometimes you have to give up some prospects to go get a piece of the puzzle in midseason. To give
Yeah.
you an example, in 1998, when I was in Seattle, uh, Randy Johnson, it was time for him to move on, and there was some concerns about his back. I think that played into it a little bit, and
Yeah.
so we trade him to Houston for Freddie Garcia, Carlos Guillen, and John Halama. And I'll tell you what, these three guys did a good job for us in Seattle. Guillen was a regular shortstop, really good major league player.
Yeah.
Freddie was a top-notch starting pitcher, and John Halama was a great swing
Yep.
guy, could start, relieve.
I remember that trade.
And Randy Johnson went 15-1, and the Astros went to
Mm-hmm.
the playoffs.
Yep.
And you look at it from two different views. Houston needed to make an impact trade. Not only did it bring a great pitcher over Randy Johnson, but the upbeat clubhouse by acquiring somebody like Randy Johnson, it made everybody step their game up. They know, hey, this is our time. Let's go. We can do this.
Yeah.
And on our side of the ledger is we got three really good major league players that can contribute for years in the future. And I think one of the hardest things for me as a coach or a manager is you see somebody that they're at the end of their career, and it's painful sometimes. They still want to play, and they're not able to play like they used to. They still want to make the money.
Yeah.
You as a manager, you're loyal to them, and the fans want to see them. And there's been a couple examples where, it was really a bad ending for some guys' careers. It's just, it's the nature of the beast. And I don't like seeing it. That's why I think, in my opinion, it's always to trade somebody a little bit early than late. And if it gets too late, like I said, there's some real down times for everybody, including the fans, and the player feels bad too. He's not the same physically player, and you start cheating in your swing, and that's kind of what happened in Houston to Carlos Beltran.
Yeah.
They started this system because he had lost a little bat speed, so they were trying to let him know so he could cheat on fastballs a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's just one of the many aspects of the game that a lot of people don't think about, but it's part of our game.
So then take us through that managerial experience. Then do you know when it is time for a rebuild or when you guys are going for it? Because I know the players out there play hard, and I know you guys coach the heck out of them as well because you guys want to win too. You guys, I hate the word tank, but most of that.
I've never been on I've
so
never been on a team that tank. I have never heard the word in my.
I know I hate that term, but
I've
it's
I've
floating
never
around
seen
there.
it. I've never seen it, never experienced it. Has it happened? Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've never been experienced, thank goodness. But first of all, the game's about money. And when you put your roster together, and I happen to be lucky to be around Pat Gillick for 17 years. And what you do is you got a short-term game plan. You got a 3-year game plan. You got a 5-year game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to spread the money out. That's why you got to let guys go sometimes. Back when I think about Alex Rodriguez, when he signed the $252 million deal with the Texas Rangers, that was a great move for the Texas Rangers. In one respect, is you got arguably top player in baseball, but it also put them behind the 8 ball with their the salary cap, not the cap, to put it, you can only spend so much money. You got a bottom line someplace, so you're going to pay him all this money. So you're going to have to cut back on other areas, and you're not going to be able to put as good as team together as you want to, because you're going to be missing some pieces because you're not going to be able to pay everybody. And you're probably going to have to let a couple people go in order for this to work into your yearly budget. And one thing you don't want to do is, when you're looking at your roster, you don't want a bunch of your good players become free agent in the same year. That's the worst scenario you can have. So you try to spread them out. You sign one for 3 years, one for 5 years, one for 2 years. And I can speak from experience what happened in Seattle. We had total commitment from our ownership. I mean, we put big money up for a lot of years for a lot of players.
Yeah.
And I think one mistake we made is, like, we went for position player A, and we offered this amount of money, and he went somewhere else. So now we go to option B, and he turns us down. And now we go to C and offer him almost the same deal to get him. And now we're obligated for 4 or 5 years. And if it had been option A, he'd have probably warranted 5 years. Where option C, he might be ready to move on after 2 or 3 years. It happened several times. And so you got to be careful. Instead of, if you miss who you want to get, instead of signing a replacement for the same amount of years, just sign the other guy for 2 years, and that way you're not going to be obligated to him after that, and there might be a better free agent available after 2 years. So, there's a lot of this is where the general manager's game plan comes in, and they've got so many assistants up there, and the number of meetings behind the scenes putting teams together, it's really incredible. There's a lot of thoughts, a lot of debate. There's a lot more than just trying to throw a bunch of names together and go get them. You look for chemistry. You want to look for guys that fit into your clubhouse. You might go with a little bit less talented player because the talented player might be a guy that is a little out of control. Has had problems in the past in the clubhouses. So you try to. I know as a coach, Lou Piniella used to tell me, he says, call around to your network and see what they think about this guy. Is he a hard worker? Is he a team player? Does he have a good family life? I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. And, when I called around, you'd be surprised what kind of tips you pick up, good and bad. Sometimes we weren't really as high on a guy. And after making a couple calls, I told Lou, I said, we ought to look at this guy a little bit harder. And there's a couple times, the guy was having some medical problems that was kind of kept behind the scenes. And I said, we need to be careful here. And so, there's a lot that goes into signing free agents and putting a team together.
So you briefly got into with the contract size and the length. I got to ask you now, that brings this up because you brought up A-Rod, who I like to unfortunately call A-Fraud because of the steroids as a little joke, but I know he was still a good player regardless. But I got to ask you about the contracts now. Obviously, there's Scott Boras, who was also part of A-Rod. I know he's still involved in the game. He's got clients and all that. Do you see, even when he does decide to hang up as an agent and doesn't no more, do you still see baseball handing out these long-term contracts that Boras made famous for his clients?
Well, Scott,
I know you saw it a lot. You saw
Scott,
it a lot in your time.
I know Scott. I've been around Scott. I like Scott. Scott goes to bat for his clients. A couple of them don't work out, and you hear about guys that leave every now and then.
Yeah.
But he does a terrific job, and one of the reasons he's got a terrific team behind the scenes. He's got some guys that have been there for years and years and years. Jeff Musselman, Mike Fischlin, Mike Ferraro. These guys have been with him 30 years or whatever. And they're just like a baseball team. They're organized. They got a game plan. I can remember Scott coming in, and actually we went up to his suite in the winter meetings, and we walked in. I think there was 3 of us from the Mariners, and there was 3 iPads, and it had all the information on this player. I mean, you could call it good salesman. I call it great detailing. I mean, he was on top of his game, and I just think that he's got such a good team in place. He'll pass the torch, and I don't see him stepping down.
I don't either, but I'm saying when he does, because he will eventually.
I mean, he's so good at what he does.
Yeah,
and he's so organized, and he's just the best in the business. Let me just make a couple comments about Alex Rodriguez.
Go ahead.
Alex Rodriguez came up, and I defend the steroid era. And the reason I defend him in this respect, I think some of them had to bite the bullet, and I think there was so many other people that were on it that got off scot free. No one even knows who they were.
Right.
Is there steroid guys in Hall of Fame? I would, I'd be willing to bet there is.
I'm not denying that either. So I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
I was there during that era. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't see it in the beginning, and then I saw signs of it later. I heard talk about it, and the whole era was tainted. And I can just say this: Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez, Manny Ramirez, they weren't the only ones doing it, and I'm just defending them because they're the ones that got hammered, and the other ones made their money and moved on with their life. And I think at some time you have to look at that era and say, okay, these guys were great players before they were on it. Roger Clemens is right there. I don't know if Roger Clemens failed a drug test, and he got taken down.
Huh? Yeah, he didn't. I don't remember him.
I'm his biggest fan. Let me tell you what. I'm Roger Clemens' biggest fan. I coached him in '91. We were both from Houston, Texas, and I just have to say this. Writers are kind of giving them a little bit more every year, and at some point, I think they need to let it go. And that's the same thing with Pete Rose. Let it go and move on. And our game has learned a lot from this. In '98, one of the biggest years baseball's ever had.
That's the unfortunate part, because that's what. Yeah, I know. I remember. Like I said, I was only 7 years old, and of course, my Padres got swept by the Yankees in World Series. But that ain't the question here, though. But yeah, that was the year of the home run chase, and that's what made the game, like you're saying.
It brought the game back, because in '95 we had 94 we didn't have a spring training.
Right.
'95 we had 3 weeks late in spring training with replacement baseball.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, these two guys are going after the home run record, and it was suspense every night. I mean, everybody was glued to their TVs and asking what happened. What happened? They want them to hit a home run, And I don't think steroids are good. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, when you start having high school kids take steroids, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was happening. There was some high school kids, however they got on steroids, whether it was their dad or I don't know. I just know there was high school kids that started to take it, and that's really crossing the line. And, I really care about the health of the players. And, you don't know what steroids are going to do to the bodies in the future. And the game has been cleaned up, and we have a great game. And, I'm just, I'm happy to be part of it in my role, what I do now. And I just think it's the greatest game in the world.
The only thing I hate about that whole thing and how it came out, I know Canseco wanted money and he was money hungry, he was bankrupt, whatever, but I just don't like how that all first came out. It was like, dude, you ratted on all your friends that you called friends and were friends with. I'm pretty sure he was friends with most of them. And then
him and Alex were friends in Miami. They're both from Miami.
Exactly.
And the relationship just fell apart. And I think to this day that that Jose can't stand Alex, and it is what it is. And I will say this about Alex: when Alex was a kid, I had a special bond with him. I was the bench coach, and I talked to him a lot. And he would always ask me about players before him, and that impressed me. I can't remember another player that would ask me so many questions about Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and you know, great players, and he just wanted to know, what kind of guys they were, and do you know if they did weights? And I mean, he was very, very interested. And I can remember one time he broke Rico Petrocelli's record, I think, for home runs by a shortstop. And he really didn't know Rico Petrocelli. And he was asking me about him. And I just told him, he was, a decent fielder. He had real good pop, very popular player, Italian guy, and, everything I knew about him. And then the PR guy brought in the next day. He brought him a bio that they had printed up about what Rico had done in his career. So I mean that showed me something that he was asking about players before him, what they were all about, and he always treated me well, and I can only go on that. I think he's done well for himself in business. I know he has. He owns,
Oh yeah, for sure.
He owns a basketball team, part of a basketball team.
Yep.
He does an excellent job on Fox Sports.
Yep. And ESPN.
I'm hopeful at some point he gets in the Hall of Fame. He was definitely a Hall of Fame player.
Oh, for sure.
Same thing with Bonds and Clemens and Ramirez and Sosa. So, at some point, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think every year they get a few more votes. So I don't know what the solution is, but I hope all them guys get in at some point.
Well, yeah, it finally took the Cubs. I don't know if you heard the story, but it finally took years and years to forgive Sosa. Now he's finally doing something with the team. I forget what I heard, but he's finally.
Yeah, he wrote a letter.
Good graces.
He wrote a letter to the organization apologizing, and I think that's great. He's part of their history. He was a folk hero there in Chicago.
Yeah, he was.
I think it'd be great if he's back on the field and waving to the fans and just be seen around the ballpark. I think it's great.
For sure. I agree. And I totally agree with you or not. So my next question to you is, I see that you were a catcher when you played. Like you said, you were a player. You had hopes and dreams of making it. Unfortunately, didn't make it. So you went into coaching. I got to ask you, as a former catcher, you look at guys like Mike Scioscia, Joe Girardi, and even pitchers like Bud Black and all them. The guy for crap, I can't. Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy. Yeah. Guys like that. What makes those two positions well known for the eyes of being a manager compared to any other position out there on the field? Because that's where you mainly see managers is catchers and pitchers. Why is that? Can you explain that?
Well, I kind of disagree with the pitchers. I don't think there's been that many pitchers that managed in the big leagues. There's been some good ones, Lasorda and Bud Black and Roger Craig. I come off the top of my head, John Farrell. But catchers, there's been Bob Boone. I mean, there's been a lot of catchers. And I think one reason is, catchers are always studying the game, and they're always in the game. And, they're looking for detail, and they're paying attention. And, before the game, you have to prepare to get ready for the game, get together with the pitchers and get a game plan, how we're going to attack their hitters. And it just seems like you're always part of the action. And, you look to be a leader behind the plate that takes charge. And you just look at the whole game, and you're always studying the game. And Scioscia was a great manager. I thought Bob Boone did a great job, and Joe Torre. I mean, we could go on and on. Buck Martinez. Right. There's been a lot of us.
So who's who? Exactly. Who's who?
Let me clarify this. I'm not knocking the pitchers. I just
No, I know you're not.
I just
There's
don't
quite
think
a bit
I just
out there,
don't
but I
think
can't remember the
there
name.
hadn't been as many of them as there has been catchers.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But there's been more pitchers than there have been regular. You get what I'm saying? Of regular position players. There's been
Right.
more pitchers.
Yeah.
And no, I agree. Is that catchers are there legitimately behind you guys are literally behind the plate, controlling everything, and I can see that. So I believe that one. And this leads me to my next question. You brought it up briefly, as you said you were a scout for us, the Tampa Bay Rays, well, then Devil Rays, which I don't think they should have dropped the name, but whatever, it is what it is.
They were the Rays when I were there.
I know, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
they should have never dropped the Devil Rays.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Take us throughout, because I know it's definitely different than being a manager or general manager. What's the exact role for a scout, and what do you guys really do, and how do you communicate with the GMs? You tell them do you exactly tell them who to vote, who to draft, or what goes on behind the scenes between you guys and then the general managers and owners or managers or whatever?
Well, Andrew Friedman had just taken over in Tampa Bay, and Joe Madden got the manager's job when Lou left, and Joe Madden and I were the finalists. So I had a year left on my contract, and Andrew asked me, "Would you like to stay on?" I go, "Yeah." He said, "Would you want to coach?" I go, "No. Let Joe bring his own coaches in here." I said, "Something in scouting development, I would like to do that." And he sent me out on special assignment. He would give me names of 4 or 5 players, and I would go watch a series wherever it was, Texas League, Florida State League, Pacific Coast League, and I'd give him a rundown on these players that he gave me, and I totally enjoyed it. And I also helped get their Latin American program going. A quick story. In 2005, in spring training, I noticed this young kid kind of walking around. I saw him all the time, and I asked Lou, I said, "Lou, who's the young guy?" He says, "Well, that's one of Stuart Sternberg's guys. He bought the team, and he's just kind of observing what's going on." So I said, "Okay." So a couple of days later, we're playing the Yankees over in Tampa. It was a night game in spring training, and I went outside the clubhouse to make a call, and I ran into Andrew, and he introduced himself, and we talked 3 or 4 minutes, and he said, I'd like to talk to you when you have time." I said, "Well, I got a few minutes now, if you'd like to talk." He says, "I know you've been with several winning organizations. Is there a glaring weakness that the Tampa Bay team has?" I said, "Absolutely."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "What's that?" I said, "You don't have a Latin program." So now we go the next year, and now I'm scouting for him. And I helped Carlos Alfonso. We went down to Venezuela, and then we went to Dominican, and we started to put staff and to scout some players in both countries. And I have a lot of history in Venezuela and some in the Dominican, but I managed in Colombia 2 years, and I was in Venezuela 5 years. And I love my time in Latin countries. The fan support, the enthusiasm, it's great. Sunday afternoon in Caracas is just exciting as hell. And so then I end up going back to Seattle as a coach. Then I took over as manager, and then in 2009 I'm out of a job, and I went back to Tampa Bay and scouted. And then this time I scouted more on a team basis. He'd send me on to see a whole team, and so I ended up getting a coaching position with the Washington Nationals, and so that went on for a couple of years. And I called him again. He said, "John, you left me twice." He said, "I love you, but I can't do it again." So I didn't go back with him, but really, really, really sharp guy. I mean, really organized, delegates authority. I really enjoyed Andrew Friedman. I think he's a great, whatever him and Stan Kasten, Josh Burns, they got the Dodgers is top notch. I mean, I don't know how much higher they can go, but they're sure trying to get there.
Yeah.
They do a great job. They got good people that work for them. They delegate authority. They're well organized. That is a well-oiled machine right there. They have everything. They got money. They got a solid ownership, front office, development, major league staff, great players. I mean, that's what you look for in an organization right there. When you everything comes together, they're top notch. And I think there's other organizations that's just a little bit down from them. Philadelphia, the Yankees, maybe Boston's in that category. Houston for sure. It all has to do with having good leadership at the top. I believe that, and
For sure.
bringing in the right people to help you execute your game plan on building your organization up.
So out of your coaching career, because it's a who's who of names of teams you were with, and even of course your two that you managed, which stop would you say? I know you enjoyed every single lick of your time and wherever you were at, but is there one specific place that you enjoyed the most out of being with?
Boy, that's the toughest question you can ask me. I started with the Toronto Blue Jays November 1st of 1976. I was one of the first people they hired.
Mm-hmm.
And I was with them 14 years, 5 years as third base coach. And we had a terrific organization. They won right after I left.
Yeah.
And we had great ownership, Labatt's, and we had great ownership. And then I went to Boston a year, and I was only there a year, but what an experience. I mean, such a traditional organization. And
yeah,
I mean, Ted Williams would walk in the clubhouse, and Tip O'Neill. James Taylor. You didn't know who was coming in that clubhouse to say hello.
Right.
And then I went to Cincinnati one year, and I love Cincinnati. I mean, Marty Brenneman and Johnny Bench was around, and it was fabulous. And really enjoyed Cincinnati. And then I went to Seattle with Lou, and in '95, what a season! 2001. What a season, and everything in between with.
Right.
I mean, I always tell this story. If you look at the history of the Seattle Mariners, there's 3 years that kind of stick out that leads up to 2001. In '98, we traded the best pitcher in baseball, Randy Johnson. In '99, we traded the best player in baseball, and Ken Griffey Jr.
Mm-hmm.
In 2000, Alex Rodriguez left us, and he had to be top 3 or 4 players in the game with Jr. and Barry Bonds. He left us.
Mm-hmm.
2001, we won 116 games, and we just lost the 3 best players in baseball.
And you brought Ichiro in.
We brought Ichiro in. Yes, we brought Brett Boone back.
Yep. You still had Edgar.
I mean, Edgar Martinez was. I mean, he was there. I mean, he's like Alvin Davis, Mr. Mariner. I mean, what a professional! What a great hitter.
By far the best designated hitter ever. No offense to Big Papi, but Big Papi. The difference between him and Big Papi was Big Papi played on the base paths. Edgar, to my knowledge, was always a designated hitter. to my knowledge. I don't think he ever played a position.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a Big Poppy story. Appleton, Wisconsin was one of our farm teams, and it was in the contract on one of our off days in the big leagues. We would play an exhibition game there. So we go there and play an exhibition game, and it starts to rain a little bit. I want to say this was 94, 95. Yeah, it had to be because we made it. Okay, I'll lead up to that. But so they come up with a game plan. Why don't we have a home run derby to try to appease these fans? It's sold out. It's just drizzling. The field's wet. I don't think we can play.
Right.
So we put Griffey and A-Rod, who had played in Appleton, I think Dan Wilson. And they got this big kid hitting bombs. I mean, bombs. And Lou says, who in the hell is this kid? And it was a kid named David Arias. And the next year we trade David Arias for Dave Hollins because we needed a third baseman. And David Arias is David Ortiz.
No kidding. I always thought his name was Ortiz. Wow, I never knew that.
He went with David Arias in those days.
Wow.
And he ends up, he just plays for a year or two in Minnesota, and he's playing winter ball in Dominican. You can look this up. Pedro Martinez called the Red Sox and said, I think you should sign this guy. I think he can help us.
No way. Wow. And, see, you learn something new every day. I never knew that.
I would think the rest is history.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
As far as charisma, big-time player, fans falling in love with the player, Big Poppy falls in that category as good as anybody that I can remember. And terrific career. He's still got the big smile. He does a great job on Fox Sports. And it's just it's funny how the game works sometimes.
It does. And, I never knew that. Wow.
Yeah, timing's everything. And it was just his time when he went to Boston, and he got an opportunity, and
he made for it, yeah, because he wasn't. I remember his time.
He took advantage of it,
right?
I don't know how much of a chance he was going to get.
I remember.
It was a favor to Pedro. It was a favor to Pedro, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I remember his time in Minnesota because that's where I remember him most is in Minnesota before he went to obviously well-known, Hall of Fame career with Boston. Look it
up, and you'll see a photo of him in Appleton, and he looks like a young Willie McCovey. He was tall and slender. He hadn't filled out yet.
I'll definitely
Google David Arias Ortiz, and see what you come up with.
Definitely, I'll look that up right now. Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's crazy, and to think, like you said, Edgar had something to do with him going to. Wow, I would have never known that. Yep, right here, David Ortiz. Yep. Nickname Big Poppy.
See if you can. I think they were the Timber Rattlers or something, but I've got a couple photos on my phone. But you see a photo of him. I mean, he looked like a young Willie McCovey. And I tell you what, he was a good first baseman. He was a real good first baseman. Yeah. We didn't know what we had when we traded him. Like I said, besides that home run contest, we didn't know anything about him. And, we didn't have any say in the trades. I mean, that was the front office. And, of course, if we'd have known if he was going to be David Ortiz, we'd have never made it. Nothing against Dave Collins, because Dave Hollins did a good job for us. And
here, I'm looking at the Wikipedia right here where I found yours. Yep, on November 28th, 92, Ortiz was signed by the Seattle Mariners just 10 days after his 17th birthday, who listed him as David Arias due to not being familiar with Spanish naming customs. He made the debut in the Arizona Fall League, batting .246 with 2 home runs and 20 RBIs. In '95, he went up to .332, 4 home runs, 37. And then, yeah, like you said, he was promoted to the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. Wow, yeah, that is crazy. That is.
Did he play in Appleton one year? Was it '94?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what. Yep. Exactly. That's what this is saying. Yep. Wow. Like you said, crazy.
Look it up later on and find the photo. You'll be amazed at the transformation in his body when he went to Boston, how big and powerful he got. I mean,
and then, like you said, unfortunately, you guys traded him. Yeah, I see this. Traded him in '96 to the Minnesota Twins for the player to be named later. Wow.
So we traded him for Dave Hollins.
That's crazy. Like you said, it's a small world, isn't it? You never know. Yeah. You never know. Wow, that's crazy. And like you said, though, to think, though, Edgar had something to do with that.
Who?
That's amazing. Edgar Martinez.
No, it was Pedro Martinez.
Oh, Pedro. Okay, sorry.
Pedro was with the Red Sox, and he was playing winter ball. And he said, you ought to look at this guy. He's doing a good job here in winter ball. And Boston signed him as a favor for Pedro Martinez.
Okay. Well, sorry, my bad. I thought you had said Edgar, but my bad. But yeah, okay, yeah. That could make sense because I saw on that page too. Yeah, he admired Poppy, I guess, admired growing up Pedro and his brother, whatever whoever Pedro's brother was as a pitcher.
His brother was more like highly touted than Pedro was with the Dodgers.
Exactly.
It was Ramon Martinez.
Yes.
Pretty good major league pitcher, and then the Dodgers traded Pedro for Delino DeShields.
Yes. Okay, yes, that's a throwback. I remember that trade too. Yeah, holy crap.
They needed a second baseman, and DeShields was a good player. I mean, he could run. He could run.
And now look at his son. His son's a damn good player too.
Yeah.
Delino DeShields Jr. for.
It's kind of cool seeing some of the sons that are playing.
It's crazy. I know. I feel you on that. I know. It's crazy. I know you got to feel old. But I feel old. I hate to say this because I feel old myself.
If you want to look at some astonishing facts, pull up the stats on Cecil Fielder and Prince Fielder.
Okay.
They both had 319 home runs. I think they both had the same home run total high in 1 year. There's like 5 or 6 things. They had the identical numbers. It was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. Google something like what?
Yep. Summary of Cecil Fielder's career. Out of 5,100 at bats, he had 1,300 hits. He was a .319 home run hitter and had a .255 overall batting average. He was a 3-time All-Star, part of the '96 World Series, 2-time Silver Slugger. And let's see what you were trying to say. Let's see. With the home runs. Yeah, in 1990, he had 51 home runs and 132 RBIs. Now let's see, like you said, let's look up Prince. Like you said, they had. I think I remember hearing about that. Him and his son had almost a same exact year 1 year. Let's see. Oh wow, almost the same exact career. Almost Prince, and over 5,800 at bats, had over 1,600 hits. Had about the same amount of home runs, 319, and it was an overall 283 batting average. He was a 6-time All-Star, 2-time Home Run Derby champion, and also, same as Daddy, a 3-time Silver Slugger.
Yeah, it's amazing the comparison of the two.
And yep, right here, 2007, compared to his daddy's 1 year of 50. Because his daddy had 1 year of 50, In 2007, Prince had 50 home runs and 119 RBI. So literally about the same one year. That's insane stats.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And he played. Prince ended up playing for his daddy's team. Who would have? I never
Yeah.
thought his daddy played for Detroit. I didn't know that.
So he signed with when he came back from Japan.
See,
He
you learn something new every day.
He went to Japan and had some big years, and Detroit brought him back, and that's when he hit the 50 home runs. And he hit one on the roof from the right side. And I don't think there's been a couple players ever to do that.
That's crazy. I knew he was good, and I knew his son. But yeah, going back to you said, like, it's just weird now seeing all these kids in the game now that I watched growing up in the 90s. All like, I mean, it's crazy. It's hard to believe. Oh man. So I gotta ask you now, like you said, you brought up the World Baseball Classic you were part of. That one, especially in the first one in 06, I believe it was. Like, yeah. What do you remember most about that World Baseball Classic being a part of that? I know we briefly got into it. You enjoyed it every moment, and I don't blame you. Games were good that year, I remember. I think the championship round, if I remember correctly, was us in Japan, correct?
No. We were the only team to beat Japan up to that point, and we played Mexico. And if we beat Mexico, we go to the finals, and Japan is out because we beat Japan.
Okay.
We lost to Mexico 2-1.
Okay.
And, the thing about it is the rules and the owners had put down on this is just on the United States team. We played the games the first round like spring training games.
Yeah.
A-Rod would go 5 innings, and then Chipper would go 4. The next time, Chipper would go 5, and A-Rod would go 4.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with Jeter, same thing with Utley, same thing with Michael Young, Teixeira. We rotated the outfield, Griffey and Vernon Wells and Frank Kerr and who was the other one we had there? Matt. His son plays in Baltimore.
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of it right now.
Golly, I can't believe I went blank here.
Yeah, I know I went blank too. I know who you're talking about.
He played for the Cardinals in Colorado, had big years.
Yes.
And then they've got another son that's coming up now.
Holiday.
Yeah, Matt Holiday.
Yeah, his kids. Yes.
Him and Frank Kerr were the real good young players, and we couldn't get Barry Bonds because the steroid thing was getting ready to break any day.
Yeah,
they couldn't get insurance. They couldn't get insurance on him.
Yeah,
and Roger Clemens was on the team. That's the last team that Al Leiter ever pitched was in the World Baseball Classic.
That's crazy.
Dontrell Willis, and then we had a bunch of guys in the bullpen. They were all closers, and it was just a great time. Of course, we'd like to beat Mexico and go on to San Diego for the finals. We just didn't get there. And it was great memories. I've got my jerseys up on the wall. And, to stand on that foul line, listen to the national anthem, wearing a USA uniform, that's as good as it got for me. That was spectacular. Pretty special times. So
now, do you remember as a manager? Well, I know you weren't the actual manager, but you were part of it throughout that whole coaching staff. Do you remember how that team was brought about? Is it invitation? Is it general manager?
We're right here. We were right here on this Zoom about 3 times a week going over prospective players.
Oh, okay. So you handpicked the players.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, let me just say this: we gave our opinion, and then the higher ups made the final determination. I really wanted Louis Gonzalez on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and they were kind of pushing to bring a couple of the young kids up, Frank Gore and Holiday. And we end up calling Louis, and he didn't want to do it then because we didn't, ask him in the beginning. And I don't blame him.
Right.
He should have been one of the first ones picked anyway, I thought. But,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just differences of opinion a little bit. And we're trying to get some speed guys. And, we're talking about Sean Figgins and Carl Crawford, and a couple of them were hurt. And it was, the pitching, we fell short we thought we were going to have CC Sabathia, and it didn't work out. And that's why we went with more of bullpen guys, because, it's hard to get organizations to let you have their starters
I
to
agree.
crank them
Yeah.
up, that early. The perfect time is June or July to have this
Right.
tournament.
During the All-Star break.
You shut baseball down, but they
ain't going to, yeah.
They do it. They do it in hockey and some other sports.
Money.
But they just won't do it in baseball.
Yeah, they ain't going to. Money.
Well, I can tell you what, the WBC is a pretty good moneymaker. So
I know, but owners ain't going to want to stop that. You know that. You know that as well.
You know what? You can work around it. You can make up those games. You can play a little bit deeper into October. I mean, we've done that before.
True.
To me, it's worth a debate.
It is a debate, but does the owners want to do that though? Seriously.
Well,
that comes down to it.
You know what? To risk injury that early in the season, it might be worth the swap off.
I agree. I agree.
Hopefully, it's something they might talk about. You never know.
Because I do like the WBC. I always thought that from the beginning.
You got to be there to really get into it. Like when Mexico plays the United States. I went to the one here in Phoenix this last time, and Canada played Mexico, and you had all these people from Mexico with wrestling masks on, and then, we had people in the United States dressed as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, and I mean, it was just a festive. It was just a party. I mean, it was just, the atmosphere was just tremendous.
Oh, I believe it on the TV. I've seen it. Of course, I would love to be in, like you said, in person, but I could tell on the TV, especially in Miami too, when you got those Latin countries down there in Miamiville, like those crowds went absolutely bonkers.
I'm gonna tell you what, when those countries hook up, Puerto Rico and Dominican and Venezuela and Dominican, I mean, everything's at stake, and Colombia and all these teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all in. I mean, some of the best teams. You look at that team that Puerto Rico ran out there one year. Oh my goodness,
mm-hmm.
The Dominican. To me, the Dominican hasn't. At some point, they're going to win this tournament because they've got great players and they just haven't put it together. They've always been competitive, but they just
mm-hmm.
haven't got the job done. And the United States did the same thing until Jim Leland took over and he won.
Yeah.
So it'll come, and Venezuela's always highly competitive with their players, and they're just such great players from the Latin countries. I mean, it's tremendous baseball.
You know what I always remember about that one with Reland that one year? Because that was his second WBC. I remember that one with the infamous Adam Jones catch robbery of Manny Machado.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, also in San Diego.
I think the big one was Ohtani struck out Trout. I mean, that
was pretty big.
The game was on the line, and there's your two biggest players in baseball. I mean, that's as good as it got right there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good finale. So,
mm-hmm.
I might have to wrap it up here, Byron, if you don't mind. And
yeah, no problem. I do just got one more question though before we head out,
right.
If that's all right.
Yeah.
All right, we mentioned Pete Rose, like you said, Pete Rose, which you remember throughout seeing and being a part of throughout your tenure. Now that he's dead, God bless his soul. I hate to say it, but do you think now he will actually get into the Hall of Fame? And it's not right if he does, since he's passed. But do you think they will let him in now that he's unfortunately passed?
I think this was the plan to eventually let him in, but he was going to have to. He was going to have to be dead. They didn't want him to enjoy it. They wanted him to pay the full price, and he did. I mean, there's nobody loved the game more than Pete. Nobody played harder than Pete. Did he break a cardinal sin? Absolutely. But we're a country of forgiveness.
Yes.
The only other thing I can say is baseball has big sponsors from the gambling world. So let's move on. Let's put him in where he belongs.
I couldn't agree with you more. And yeah, before I set off and let you go, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I want to actually have you on again sometime if you don't mind. I'll stay in contact with you.
Sure.
Because you got a lot of baseball knowledge, and I'd love for you to have some more stories and share that too. Also,
I'll have some Dubai stories the next time.
There you go. And plus, as well, stay in contact with you. I got your number. If you know anybody, which I know you do know, but a lot of people, I'm always looking for more people to come on. Please spread the word, because I'm always looking for more people to have on my show. I'd appreciate it as well. But I'll let you off on this question, and then we'll set off. Obviously, you were coaching all these years. Did you ever at one point in time think about being like a broadcaster at all? I know you like scouting and you like being part of the game as managing, but did you ever one point in time thought about like doing what other former players have done and being a manager? I mean,
I was approached a couple of times, and I just kind of I just told him the timing wasn't right, and then it kind of passed me. I always wanted to get back in the game, and I thought if I went that avenue, it'd be hard to get back in the game. So that was probably that. I think I would enjoy it because I enjoyed talking baseball. I enjoyed talking, and
I enjoyed talking with you about it.
Exactly. I'm a storyteller.
Exactly.
I was just fortunate to have so many circumstances. I was around great players and people, and got to meet 5 presidents, and it's a glamorous life. There's a lot of hard work involved, but in the end, I've said it before, it's the greatest game in the world.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's why I'm glad you came on. I appreciate your time. It was fun. I'd love to have you on again, like I said. And I'm glad you shared some Lou Piniella stories, because I admired his career.
Yeah.
I followed his career growing up, because obviously here being raised. And I just got to say, everything you said about him is basically what he was on camera. Basically, he was that same fiery dude.
One thing people don't know is how intelligent he was. He's close to a genius IQ. He's smart, man. But when you fly off and you go out to the umpires and you throw bases, people, they probably say, well, this guy's not a very smart guy, but he really, really smart guy. Really smart.
He is.
Well, enjoyed it, Byron.
Same. I enjoyed it.
All right.
Do you want a copy of the episode? Do you want me to send you that?
Sure, that'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll send you that, and have a good night.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye. You too.
Bye-bye.
John McLaren, everybody. What a great conversation. Can't wait to have him on again sometime in the future to talk some ball, especially with him saying that he's going over to Dubai and doing that now. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear more stories. But this concludes this episode with John McLaren, former Major League manager, former coach in the majors. Awesome guy. Can't wait to hear more stories from him soon. Till then, you guys have a good night. Take care. See you around.